Hi, everybody. Welcome to AITA Pod. I am technically Danny Vega, joined today by my lovely, lovable co-host, the beautiful, the illustrious, the incredible Sarah Levine. Sarah, how are you today?
Oh, wow. You know, I'm not in the best mood, but I'll tell you that later. I feel like it's not your fault. Just some shit going on that I had to deal with. I'm just being honest, you know?
We hate shit going on. Enough with the shit.
No, but I am in a great mood because of our guest, so I'm very excited for this.
Our lovely guest, incredible supporter, no stranger to illustriousness herself, Riley, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Oh my God, Riley, thank you so much for supporting us on Patreon at $25 a month. Good Lord, we do not deserve you. Now, of course, like many of our biggest supporters, you sort of, maybe even potentially the whole reason for you joining us was to tell me that I am wrong. And frankly, we all love to see it because you listened to some of our weed shit and you felt some kind of way about it. And we're super excited to get into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main thing about cannabis is that it's just all about education. And like, just like with a lot of things, shaming people isn't going to accomplish anything, but having open discussions and education moves us all forward, you know?
Because was this going back to, the kind of political aspect of this? Or I remember we were talking on, we were DMing a little bit.
So there's a couple of things. One, like, I've just heard you guys talk about the difference between like THC and CBD and just not like have a ton of background on it.
Yeah, let's start there. That's good. Remember when Sarah took like 15 grams of like heroin, THC, and died? She fucking died like 10 times.
And that was mismarketed. Although I do still, like in my experience, CBD doesn't do anything for me. But that's just my experience.
Yeah. So
and then I got rocked by Delta 9 or 8 or whatever it was.
Delta 9.
Yeah. So like CBD is a compound, right? That is naturally produced in your body, whether you've ever consumed cannabis or not. You are born with cannabinol, is what it's short for, in your body. THC is grown in cannabis, but CBD is also grown in cannabis. They're just in different ratios. Cannabis and hemp also are very similar plants. It's just what they produce chemically is different, but they look almost exactly the same. So cannabis, otherwise known as weed or marijuana, whatever you'd like to call it, that is like mostly THC with only a tiny little bit of CBD, versus hemp is mostly CBD with a tiny little bit of THC. THC in cannabis products can only be sold in dispensaries, but you can get hemp CBD anywhere. You can get it at the dog store, you can get it at Walmart, you can get it anywhere. So a lot of people in the cannabis community believe that CBD, when it's derived from cannabis, myself included, is just more powerful than hemp-derived CBD. So like, I've taken 100 milligrams of hemp-derived CBD and been like, do-do-do.
Yes.
But then I'll take like 20 milligrams of cannabis-derived CBD with just 1 milligram of THC, and then I'm like, okay, I totally feel that. Even though it's not psychoactive. So THC is what get you high. CBD just naturally calms you down because it gives you more of cannabinol, which is a natural substance that calms down your nervous system. Mm-hmm. I don't not to be a total nerd. Sorry.
No, it's totally that. I think I'm just honestly too anxious to like, I need pharmaceuticals. Like once I get to a certain point, I'm not like that like all the time. And if you are, that's totally legit. But yeah, I think if I'm actively anxious, like I need to just be hit with like the hard stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, everybody's different because like I came from the pharmaceutical. So like from 13 to 18, I was forced to take prescription medication for my mental health, which is why I'm so passionate about cannabis. Because in the United States, you don't have control over your own health. Your parents are responsible for you. So if your parents tell you, hey, you have to take this pill, you have to take that pill. So basically, I was a defiant teenager, so I would skip pills, which would make it way worse because the chemical imbalance was just all up and down all over the place. So just like with any medication, you want to make sure that you're not just taking it randomly, that you're taking it at the same time. You know what I mean?
I mean, I recently quit, Riley. I'm sorry. I'm done. I'm done. I finally broke up with Mary Jane.
Apologizing to her personally.
I know. I felt like I was, honestly, this is going to sound stupid, but I felt like I was in denial about it. Like, obviously I knew THC made me really paranoid and anxious. But I was still smoking my CBD, Delta 8, some not Delta 8, some Delta 9, or wait, what am I saying? No, Delta 9 is the real deal, right?
That's also the great thing about cannabis is that we're still discovering compounds.
Yeah.
So like we didn't even know about Delta 8 and Delta 9 until the past couple of years.
Some of it's like CBD, horse CBD, and some is like Delta 8 or whatever. Anyway, I saw this Instagram ad and it was trying to tell people to do an anxiety study. And it said,
oh, why didn't you send it to me? Just kidding.
I know, right?
I would have been like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I know. You could have made $100, but it was said you can't do the study. You can't. They don't even care. They're not even interested in you if you have smoked weed or CBD in the past month or 60 days or something. And I was like, yeah, because it gives you anxiety. That's normal. That's part of it for some people, not for everyone, but for some people.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know why I'm in such denial that this is such an obvious link. And so I quit. And now I don't smoke any marijuana related things.
So yeah, to each their own.
That's my experience.
I mean, like, there's no shame in like quitting it or like taking a break.
Took me 18 fucking years.
I would love if we.
Wow.
Sorry. No, but I'm pro weed for people who like it. I'm not against weed. I'm all about it. Sorry. Go on.
This is amazing to me. I had one bad experience with weed, and I was like, I will never interact with it for the next like 15 years.
That's how a lot of people feel, you know? It's just not as cannabis, and I want to move away from the word marijuana. We want to move like as a society towards the word cannabis and weed.
Oh, why is
just
that?
because
marijuana,
hemp was a huge part of the founding of the United States. Hemp is what a lot of our founding documents are written on, because hemp can be smoked, it can be made into rope, it can be made into paper, it can be made into so many things. So a lot of our founding documents were written on hemp.
For a horse. Go on.
And then immigrants from Mexico and from other places, natives also that already lived here before we were here, knew of cannabis, and they used it, marijuana, as a term to associate people of color with it as something that is negative. So especially in the United States, we're trying to like shift to a world where we're saying cannabis and weed instead of saying the marijuana, because it also just sounds better.
It sounds weird, like what the narcs would say, so I've never like been inclined to use that word anyway, so I'm like, great,
I do like to say CBD. I don't know why. That's kind of funny to me.
Say what?
Okay, not to you guys. CBD instead of saying CBD, like CBD. So stupid. The silence is
offensive, just in a different way.
I gotta say, I've worked at a dispensary and I've heard a bunch of crazy things, but I've never.
That's the craziest. You're like, I've literally been with someone on the verge of hysteria who can't even. They're hearing auditory hallucinations and they've not said anything as crazy as CBD. CBD.
I don't know if you know the difference between indica or sativa, but I had people that would come in and be like, "Can I get a sativa-ca?" And I'm like,
"A sativa-ca." That's fun.
That's a combo.
Hey, what about people who say it's all fake? I thought that was interesting. I ran into that take online.
What, they think like weed is fake?
No, the sativa and indica is bullshit.
Oh.
There's no difference.
That is actually a very interesting hot take that is like, basically, sativa and indica are just categories to classify how it makes you feel. But cannabis in general has found with our research that terpenes actually determine how you feel when you smoke. And whether it's a sativa or indica doesn't really have anything to do with it. So depending on what terpenes are in it, that's what'll make it like a sativa or indica. So, for example, to make it like super simple, everybody knows the smell of lavender. Everybody knows how you take a smell of lavender, and then most of the population will go... and like take the edge off a little bit.
Purple. It smells. Lavender smells like purple.
So linalool is the terpene in lavender that makes lavender smell like lavender and gives you that calming relaxation. So linalool is also a terpene that is in cannabis and in other natural things. So if you smoke cannabis with linalool in it, it's way more likely to make you calmer, and it may happen to be labeled indica or hybrid or whatnot. So that's kind of what we're shifting to, is looking at the terpene levels. However, in California, they're not like legally required to put that on there. So like in certain
Yeah,
states, you could be like, I want limonene, and then the bud tender could be like, okay, this has limonene, but in California, it's like, well, let's look around. I don't know if they even have it on the label.
Okay, I have a weed story. So, I like to go to downtown Los Angeles and pretend it's New York, and this is my hobby. And so, I know it's not good, but it's what I do. And so I was doing that, and I found this weird area, and there's all these weed stores. That's what I thought they were. And I was like, look at that, it's a weed store. That's fun. And I went in the weed store, and guess what they actually sold? It wasn't weed. It was just bags, endless bags, hundreds of bags, so many bags for $0.25 each.
What? Like
Yes.
empty bags?
Empty bags, Sarah. Empty bags. And I said, what is this store, sir? And he said, this is the bag store, mate. No, he didn't say that. But the store basically sold these brands, right? It would be like banana
do you
bread.
get the weed for free when you buy the bag?
No, there's no weed in the whole store. Forget about
confused.
weed. It's literally a packaging store.
He
And
said, forget about weed.
there's no weed.
Yeah.
There really is no weed. It's a bag store. And there are boxes too. There's bags, there's boxes, there's probably some other stuff I don't know how to, I don't really know the names of things. Maybe
Wait, but
there's
it's called, what is the store called again? Like, how did we think it sold
It's
weed?
called, but
So
the,
basically, there's a distinguish. There's smoke
Yeah.
shops, and then there's dispensaries.
no, neither. No paraphernalia though. This was a weed brand. It was branding. Like, so you could get, it was for the dispensaries. Okay. So you could go in.
That makes
and
sense.
Right? So my favorite brand I saw, because I like banana bread, and it was banana bread weed. And so I just thought it was so funny because I could see myself at the dispensary buying banana bread weed, thinking, well, they've spent years developing this and eating only banana bread and feeding the marijuana plant. Sorry, what do we call it? Cannabis?
Cannabis.
The cannabis
Or
plant
weed.
bananas, or weed plant bananas, and monkeys pet it and shit. But no, it's literally you just buy the bag and put the weed in it. And you're like, here's the banana bread weed. And people are like, oh my God, I love banana bread. Here's $40. I saw the terpene stores there too that you're talking about. Lots of terpene marts. So, okay, but
Interesting. Wow.
I blew my mind. I'll take you there, Sarah. That's the kind of
Because
stuff
I feel
do
like
for fun.
it's like in Midtown. I feel like there's like the garment district where
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, you can't even go in there if you don't have like a wholesale or card. Like you can't.
Yes,
just go
you can't
in.
buy.
But they
Actually,
have, like,
you can't buy unless you
yeah,
have a
right.
wholesale
You
thing
can't just
there,
be
yeah.
a regular person. You
No.
have to have a retail store, and they just sell like tons of like wholesale like shitty necklaces and whatever the case may be. But yeah, that's kind of wild that it exists for weed, but I guess why not? It's a huge industry.
But you're in this industry, Riley, and we had this submission come up about this woman, and this person had this interaction with her, and she had a weed store, and she wasn't really very woke at all to I'm not doing a great job of summarizing what they said. But there's this aspect of a lot of Black Americans are in prison because of shitty cannabis laws and racist laws, and America's racist and our shitty past. And so
And
obviously
present.
what's that?
I said and present.
And
Yeah,
present,
for
yes.
real.
And but that I didn't understand it, and I'm trying to understand it, that if you are in this industry, you need to have a consciousness of that. And you said that is a thing and that's a movement, right? You were telling me about that.
Yeah, and I think it's a really important delineation too, Danny, because I think that as a white person in an industry that was founded on the hard work of mostly non-white people,
Right.
that the very least thing I can do is at least mention it. The most that we can do and what we should be doing
Right.
is these brands should be donating to the release of some of these people. There's great nonprofits out there like the Last Prisoner Project. And so their goal is to get out every single last prisoner for nonviolent drug charges. The reason why it is so important that the white part of the cannabis industry help out with this aspect is because of the fact that most states have written into their law that if you have a previous drug charge, a previous fraud charge, or you're a felon, you cannot open your own cannabis business. Therefore, purposefully in the law discriminating against people of color, because white people are less likely to be arrested for the use of cannabis.
And my friend also told me maybe another way, and this is an episode coming out with Jake Davis, that, you know, there's also brands that are black owned. And that's another thing you can do is just support black people who are making weed now legally.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just like, can Biden just like let everyone out who's in prison for freaking pot charges? Like, can that not be an executive order? Like, it's such a joke.
There's no money in that, so a lot of the, you know, what you would call elite or higher up people in government, there's no money to be made in that, but there is money to be made in legalizing weed and regulating weed and doing those things. So it's not on the people's top priority list. Also, Joe Biden is like never been like, yeah, cannabis. Like, he's never been a big supporter. And I voted for him, unfortunately. Didn't have a lot of options, as you guys know. But he's not like a huge cannabis supporter in any way, shape, or form. That was one of their trail promises, that they were going to try and do that. And it just kind of fell to the wayside.
I mean, you can still bully Joe Biden into doing it. Don't give up hope. Just saying.
There are people that are out there doing that.
Yes. Bully your elected officials. I'm gonna get fucking flamed for saying that. You guys know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, you know, guys, I think in the end, let's go Brandon. Sorry, I just always wanted to say it.
Oh, sorry.
My God.
This reaction right there. I just sorry.
I just think it's funny because I don't really like him. I just, you know, right. Like, I feel like the same way you do. I mean, guys, I was thinking about this. You know, have you guys ever seen this subreddit? Like, it's called like One Joke. And it's making fun of how the right wing only has one joke, which is like, there's 44 genders, brr, brr. And then they literally.
That's so true. That is the joke.
So funny. And I was in Las Vegas and I saw "Let's Go Brandon" written like on this parking structure. And I was like, someone should give the right credit. They came up with their second joke. It's been almost 2 decades.
You gotta change the subreddit.
Yeah, they came up with number 2. It's like technically a joke, kinda. You know, like we should give it to them.
2 jokes.
It's
like
when new sub.
It's like when the boyfriend does the bare minimum and you're like, wow, good job. You did the bare minimum. Like,
right.
You barely came up with the slogan.
Hey.
Yeah.
Whew. Anyway, guys, smoke weed if it doesn't make you anxious. You know, it's your life in the end, and support, what's it called? Last Prisoner Project?
Yes, Last Prisoner
Here
Project.
we go. Sarah, you got any juice? Should we just get into this thing? We got anything?
I feel like we've done a lot of riffing.
We've done a lot of
really have juice
riffing.
also.
Hell yeah. Well,
But I'm going to blame it on us, so we share it equally.
Our second story of the day, people, it's AITA because I asked my neighbor to stop smoking weed in front of my kids. Oh boy. But first, it is the similar AITA for smoking weed when home with my kids. 2020 was a shit year for me. And in addition to dealing...
But just this person.
Yeah.
Nobody else.
It was great for everybody else.
Like, wow. Okay. Understatement of the century.
I had to deal with some mental health struggles. As a result, I started drinking and smoking a little more weed than usual. My spouse called me out on it earlier this year, so I stopped drinking and smoking for several weeks. I also started working on my mental health by seeing a therapist, exercising, and soon I started feeling myself again. Now, a couple days ago, I had a long day at work, like 15 hours long. It was long, but it wasn't bad, and I felt like I got a lot accomplished. When I was done with work, I decided to toke up. Now, my spouse was gone at the time and I was home with our children, 3 kids under the age of 10, but they were all in bed. So I grabbed my one hitter, I went outside, had a couple of puffs, then went back inside to watch Netflix to unwind. When my spouse came home, they found out I had toked up and a big argument ensued. I was accused of putting our children in danger by smoking weed when home alone with them. I was also accused of going back to using weed as a crutch since I only did it because of my long day. I disagreed with both points, but my spouse is still upset with me, mostly because I did it when alone with our kids. So AITA for smoking weed when home with my kids.
I only have either not smoked weed or just been completely incapacitated. So
There is no in between with Sarah.
nope, there truly isn't. So I don't really have a good barometer. So like, and I can acknowledge that a person can take like one tiny hit and be fine. So I'm trying to just compare it to like drinking. Like I would say if I was watching my kids alone, I would absolutely not have like 3 beers. How old are these kids? Yeah, under the age of 10. Like, you know, I wouldn't go and have a number of alcoholic drinks, but I think you could have maybe a glass of wine and be okay. So yeah, I don't really know.
So a one hitter, for those who are listening that don't know, it's like a pipe that is traditionally smaller than your middle finger, and it's less of a pipe and more of just like a chute, and you put cannabis in one end of the chute and then you just kind of light it up. So it's a quick way to smoke a really small amount of weed. Like you can't even pack like a full bowl.
But
in
it's
there.
enough for a couple of puffs. Now I sound like a fucking idiot and a boomer. I'm like, how much are we talking here? Like, it's multiple
depends on how much
puffs,
you
but
pack
it's
in
one
there.
hit. Like, how I thought that was.
I think we walk a tough road because I don't know. I guess I'm uncomfortable kind of being like, what's the limit, right? Like what, because then it gets kind of weird where it's like, all right, so yeah, Sarah, you know, you're a small woman. And so you're saying 1 drink. So that means a big burly man could have 3 drinks, you know.
Well, I'm not saying that.
Oh, you're saying 1 drink is unacceptable?
I think 1 drink is fine. 3 drinks would probably be pushing it.
Well, but
if
Sarah,
you're
1
home
drink
alone
for
with your
you,
kids.
1 drink for you, a small person, is akin to 3 drinks for someone who weighs 220 pounds.
I guess, but I still think 3 drinks is like decently substantial of an amount, and 1 is just 1. Like, no matter your size.
Isn't that convenient for you as a small person? You know, like that it gets to be 1. Like, so.
No, it's 1 across the board.
Well, yeah, but isn't that nice for you?
At
So
most.
relatively, you get to be the most fucked up because you're small, right? Like that's how drinking works.
I mean, it depends on your
Okay.
tolerance.
One.
It depends on
Exactly.
your tolerance.
There's all these facts. That's why I'm saying I'm not really comfortable with this
But like,
rule,
I guess
'cause-
I'm thinking if my
Yeah.
giant husband had 3 beers alone with our kids, and also it doesn't even seem like she's gone for that long. It's like, what are you doing?
I like
And,
how
like-
he became your husband. You just took him. You're like, big man. He's mine now.
Yeah, sure. I would just be like, yeah, I don't know. How long has it been? Why are you drinking 3 beers in succession?
Yeah, I guess the main thing is like it really depends on the person, right? Because like if I drink a glass of wine, I'm tipsy. But if my friend, who's literally a foot shorter than me, who's been a bartender for years, could take 3 shots to the face and be like, nothing. Are we ready to go? And I'd be like, you're crazy. So everybody's tolerance
Right, but
is,
if your big friend took, this is what I'm saying. This is all I'm saying is that if your big friend took 3 shots in succession while they're home alone watching the kids, like, I don't care if they don't feel that on a night out. Like, that seems a little bit much. Is all that I was saying.
But then what really
And
are
it
we
also,
talking
like-
about? Is it that I think that's what I was trying to move away
So you're
from.
trying to just have like a black and white all or nothing? I'm genuinely
Yeah.
like, I don't really know enough about weed.
I guess it's easier. I feel more comfortable because then you start to get into this zone where it's like, well, if the question then is to not be impaired, then it would be a sliding scale, right? Then you have to count tolerance and body weight and all these other things. And then I'm like, okay, so Sarah can have 1 beer, so then I weigh 100, blah, blah, so then I can have 1.7 beers, and a giant burly man can have 4 beers. So like, I'm not really comfortable with that. I don't love that as a standard. To me, it's like, isn't the question really like, you're caring for your kids? They're young kids. These are young kids. They're under 10. Should you be impaired at all?
I mean, under that logic, that means neither of you can drink at the same time ever. So this couple better never
It's
have
true.
a beer at the same time because
Like, facts.
because they're both impaired. What are they gonna do? Like,
Well, maybe not though. Maybe impaired is the operative word, right? Maybe if 1 beer, you're not impaired. You're buzzed, I guess. Or 1 tiny micro hit.
it just feels very much like she is just coming for her husband on like character attacks because she doesn't like that he smokes weed. Like, you're being neglectful and you put our children in harm. The children were asleep and homie was watching Netflix. How were the children in danger? You know what I mean? And then it's also, she says that you're using it as a crutch. You had a long day and you want to have one toke or one glass of wine and just sit down and watch Netflix, and that means it's a crutch because you just want to like relax and chill. It just seems like she just hates that he smokes weed, and no matter what he does, even if he waits till the kids are in bed, everything is calm in the house, all is well, all is good, it's still not good enough for her.
I will say that I feel like her comment seems like it's just coming from a place of being like sort of triggered by the past.
Well, it sounds like he was getting fucked up, right? He was drinking more than usual. He was smoking more weed than normal.
Right, but not on this like specific instance, right? I think it just
but then like, you said that he was triggered, exactly, and then it's like,
yeah.
I mean, that to me is where I
think that's the problem. Is like she's triggered, but is it accurate? I don't know.
I was gonna try. Yeah, I think I see where we could go here, because here's the thing: is it plausible to me? You'd have to be a real teetotaler, I think, to try to spin. I don't know if I use that word correctly. You'd have to be a real fucking narc to be like, oh, you had one tiny hit of weed.
Literally, it's the opposite. I love that.
What's a teetotaler? A drunk?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So you'd have, right. Well, that's what I'm saying is like
I haven't had a drink in 8 years.
It's a very rigid and unrealistic rule to expect somebody to never have any substance at home, right? And that's where I was trying to go with like I feel like 1 is okay across the board. Maybe 2.
Well, there we go. Okay, I'm more comfortable with 1 okay across the board, maybe 2. I think I can handle that.
Anything more than 2 is where I would start to like kind of raise my eyebrows, because what is it, like 4 drinks in a night is considered binge drinking for men and 3 for women, or something like that.
Let's talk about how I was right.
That's where you kind of approach a questionable
it's binge
limit.
drinking. I feel you. Yes, if someone takes 3 shots at the outset of their babysitting, you're 100% right. That's crazy. But you know what you're not right about? What a teetotaler is. Teetotaler, dictionary, a person who never drinks alcohol.
Oh my God, I was wrong.
There we go. We got it. Play that back again. Oh my God, I was wrong.
I think everyone sucks here because they have 3 kids under 10. So I'm going to assume that they've been together for at least 10 years and they haven't had a discussion on when it is and is not appropriate to consume drugs. Because let's be honest, alcohol is a drug, cannabis is a drug. And if he clearly has some substance regulation issues.
Exactly.
How have they not had this conversation?
That's my qualm.
Why did she come in guns a-blazing? That's kind of my question.
I don't have a qualm with her. I got a qualm with him. This was an issue. It was his issue. He was drinking too much. He was smoking too much. He cooled it. And then the spouse found out that he did it, and it was a big argument. But do I think her points are valid? No, I don't think the kids were in danger. No, I don't think he was necessarily using weed as a crutch. I think his sin is that he was not communicating, and because there was a history here, and this was an issue, and it sounds like it was kind of serious, it had to be reined in, that he should not have been doing this willy-nilly. This was to get permission and build back that trust, right? Because it does undermine your trust if you're getting fucked up with your person. And they're like, yo, where are you, bro? What are you doing? It's embarrassing. I think that's fair to say.
Also, I just feel like it just the usage of the word fucked up just kind of depends on how much you've consumed. But at the end of the day, there are children involved, and that's always going to make it more of a heightened escalation of seriousness with it.
I think for me, it's it's one thing if someone goes, look, I am about to have 10 grams of weed or whatever. I don't even know how many milligrams things are, whatever. I'm about to get
not a milligram more.
If my girlfriend, my hypothetical girlfriend, I'm so lonely, told me I am going to get extremely high, and this is my plan for the evening, and I'm going to binge eat Takis, and that's what I'm doing, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. That's what you're doing. It's your life. Go do that. Have fun. I don't want to join you. I think where it gets dicey if it's you know, hey babe, what's going on? He's like, what's up? It's like, whoa, who is this guy? What are you doing? What are you like? That to me is where it starts to get a little unhinged and does start to feel more crutch-like, because it's like, it's Tuesday night and you had a little too much beer and a little too much weed. You're not acting like yourself. There's no reasoning behind it. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that feels very chaotic and inappropriate. And I think this is where that guy bled into.
I don't think that behavior is necessarily always inappropriate, but I agree in this circumstance that it absolutely is, especially with what we talked about in it being a past issue that they've had discussions on.
You don't think it's inappropriate if your partner is randomly kind of getting like inebriated off any substance and there's no justification for that?
But that's not even what it was. He said a drink or two a day, a few tokes each evening.
So it's like
it's not
also,
like he was
I guess
finishing
you're
a
right.
6-pack every night, you know?
I guess you're right.
Yeah.
It does
He's not
seem like
taking
he was
jabs to the face.
self-medicating. Exactly. Like, it sounds like maybe he was self-medicating more than usual. And, you know, certainly that's something that's good to get addressed. But it doesn't sound like he's, like, fucked up in the house.
Yeah, I guess you're right. This really sounds very
also
mild.
like, to answer your question, Danny, like it really just depends on like the dynamic of your relationship, right? Because like my boyfriend is a drinker, I'm a smoker. If he comes home from a long work day and like he comes home and I'm just like, hey, he's just like, oh, hey, you've been chilling. And I'm like, yeah. Or like if he's out with his friends or whatever, he's like, I'm going to go grab a beer with a friend. And then I pick him up and he's just like, hey, what's going on? And I'm like, all right. Like, but that's the dynamic that we have where we just take turns. Like, it's okay if one person wants to let loose, the other person will kind of pick up the slack. But that's fine in our relationship. Clearly, that is not okay in this relationship. She does not ever want to deal with her husband.
I think just because he was alone.
Yeah, but it's also like he wasn't in that situation. He wasn't falling over himself. He wasn't making a mess. No one was in danger.
Now I'm feeling very lost. I really feel like we got nothing. What charges can we pin on OP? I mean, good God. Honestly, you guys called me out. You're right. We got a drink or two, a few tokes. I mean, I'm to call that a substance abuse history? I can't. It sounds like he was just doing a little more than he used to. I mean, what's...
Right, which was like 0, apparently. Like, I don't know.
You know? All right, because what... Top comment, YTA, Redhead Fire 89. YTA, smoking weed when you care for young children. As a guy who's reading this high as F in a country that legalized it, I will happily call you an asshole. I don't know. It's not... I agree with Sarah. A woman, you know, having a drink of wine at night, I don't really see any difference with having one little toke or two.
Yeah.
I don't really know. Yeah.
The YTA, while I'm sitting in a country where it's like, that's also like, you're just, at that point, you're parent shaming, right? Now we've jumped into a different realm because you're like, well, I wouldn't do that with my kid. And it's like, that's great for you, but that's not the case for everybody. But I think that, you know, like you said, what charges can we mount on this person for, you know, for not having a conversation or like not communicating? But it's not like the children were ever in danger.
He actually wrote here, a few hits, OP wrote this, a few hits will help me keep calm and help me relax, but it doesn't make me high. I feel more of an effect after a couple of beers or glasses of wine than after 2 hits of marijuana. Someone replied, I completely agree. I think they're being honest. I think some people feel that.
Yeah, I'm exactly like that as well. It's just like with alcohol, with your tolerance. Like, I can smoke a bowl of weed to the face and have no issues, and then I have other people in my life that if they smoked a bowl of weed to the face, they'd be out for the night. So it just completely depends on the tolerance. It sounds like this guy understands his tolerance, and it sounds like his wife or partner just doesn't, and it just, anytime they smoke weed, it's just like kind of goes to that worst case scenario place.
I think so. I mean, I have gone completely around. I started this on YTA, but now when I'm looking at it, AITA for smoking weed when home with my kids, I'm actually ready to say not the asshole, and she is. OP did nothing wrong. Sarah?
Oh, yeah, sure. That's
Sarah,
fine
you
with
gone?
me.
Are you high? Where'd you go?
I'm high. I don't know anyway, honestly. I don't think he's the asshole, but as for any other verdict, like, I don't have a strong opinion. It's very murky, you know.
It's a tricky one, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, you labeled these as character attacks. I mean, they are so histrionic, you know, accusing him of endangering the children. On what grounds? That's quite a heavy thing to throw at your partner. No, this is to me unambiguous at this point. AITA for smoking weed at home with my kids. I'm saying a resounding NTA. Sarah, I don't know what's going on with you. I think did you take the CBD again?
What?
I'm kidding. Go. I said, did you take the CBD again, the CBD?
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. No. And yeah, that was so funny that time. Yeah, I mean, my only thing is, like, this is why I asked about, like, what level of impairment is he really feeling after doing, like, a few puffs from this alleged one hitter. But the only thing is, like, nobody's in danger until they're in danger. And, like, just because the kids were fine, it doesn't mean, like, I don't know. I don't like that because that's just like hindsight bias, basically, right? So my question was really like, if something had happened, is he in a position to respond like quickly, efficiently, appropriately? If we say yes, you know, we're all good here. But yeah, I just don't like the justification of like nothing happened as like, well, nothing could have happened. But I'm also a very anxious person. But yeah, I mean, I could go NTA.
I guess we all agree then. It's NTA. Guys, please rate, review, subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Join us on Patreon. We now have over 120 bonus episodes. Wonderful Discord, amazing community, all kinds of cool people. Sticker Pack 2.0, the latest and the greatest. And if you join the $25 tier, you can do your own episode and join us like lovely Riley here. And without further ado, here is Sarah.
AITA because I asked my neighbor to stop smoking weed in front of my kids. I have nothing against weed. I voted for its legalization in my state. I live on an avenue in a mid-sized city. Houses lined up and down the streets. The kind of neighborhood where kids play basketball and hockey in the street. It all sounds very quaint. My neighbor is a single guy in his mid-50s. He reminds me of Dale Gribble from King of the Hill, but he smokes joints instead of cigarettes. I have no problem with you smoking weed in your backyard or in the privacy of your own home, but this guy will smoke joints and talk with the neighborhood kids. This is not on his property. The kids will be shooting hoops in the street, and he'll be talking with them while smoking. My kids started asking me why Mr. Tony is always smoking those smelly cigarettes. I was in my front yard when I saw him on his front stoop smoking and showing my son a red Solo cup with a small pot plant in it. It kind of made me mad. Next time I saw him, I asked if he would mind not smoking in front of my kids. I didn't think this was a huge request, but now the guy wants nothing to do with me. He used to help me mow this shared swath of lawn, and now he mows it exactly at his property line and avoids eye contact. I have nothing against weed at all, but I don't think it's crazy to not want kids exposed to it. These kids are like 8 to 12 years old. Am I being a jerk? Or am I the asshole?
Juicy. Well, my first thought is, you know, what is weed, you know, and it is, I think,
so metaphysical,
you know, 2 hours later. So in conclusion, weed is a drug. No, you know, it's like, look, weed and cigarettes, they're both, I think, you know, I think they both can be bad. They're both drugs in the end. And I don't think either of these things are appropriate to smoke in front of kids because they're unhealthy. And when you do that, you know, you look fucking cool. And then the kids go, hey, that's cool when he did that. And I should do it too. And I think it's wrong. I think you should avoid it. Look, it's one thing, like, I mean, look, I used to smoke joints in the park all the time, walking around smoking a joint. I'm not going to talk to a kid, but kids might see me do it. To me, I feel like that's fair ground. I'm a stranger. And their parents will say, yeah, that's a crazy guy. Don't do what he's doing. He's crazy, you know, or whatever they want to say. But to go talk to them and cavort with them while doing this, I think is very inappropriate, selfish, self-centered. It could be weed, could be a cigarette. It's just not okay. Vape, it's not okay.
It screams like, to me, it's just old man who's so set in his ways and doesn't realize like what's going on around him. He's like, you know, back in the day we used to smoke inside. Like that's kind of the vibes that I'm.
And you're like, sir, please leave the bar.
Yeah. Exactly. Like I don't think that, you know, secondhand smoke is very real. There have been several studies done that secondhand smoke does damage to your lungs. Whether it's cannabis, whether it's cigarettes, there have shown studies that cigarettes are way more harmful. But at the end of the day, smoke is smoke, and if it's going in your lungs and it's not oxygen, it's not good for you.
Yeah.
So that part,
and even if it is
totally
oxygen,
understand.
like at an oxygen bar, which I just wasted $50 freaking at, it's not good for you either.
I'm so glad I heard that on the pod when you said that the other day, because I was thinking about doing one of
Don't
those
do
one
it.
time, and I was like, do I? And then you're like, no,
It's
a
such
waste.
a
And I was like,
scam.
good to know.
Damn.
But I think the other thing is like, so they have a relationship where this man does things for her, mows her lawn, whatever,
Yeah.
does favors or whatever. So to just come up and be like, hey, can you not do like one of the key things about you? Could you just not be you in front of my kids? Is very like, oh, okay, then I just won't be you in front of your kids or anybody. I'll just go do my own thing.
Right.
And
I'm totally not surprised he responded with this kind of fuck you response.
I think it hurt his feelings, you know?
Yeah, duh, exactly. And when you hurt someone's feelings, they can get like petulant. So it's just like, I'm not. She's like surprised Pikachu face that he stopped doing favors. Or I kind of thought this was a guy initially. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But reading it, I'm kind of like, well, yeah, duh, obviously this would happen.
Well, she could have maybe used some honey, or what's that phrase? Use honey instead of sugar. That's definitely not it.
Vinegar.
Yeah.
Also, like, it would have been different if she would have been like, hey, we don't smoke at home, and so one of my kids has asthma. Like, I'm really just trying to deter them from any, like, smoking. Would you mind just not smoking in front of my kids? Is different from, can you not smoke weed in front of my kids? You know what I mean? It comes off very judgy.
I mean, we don't really know.
Yeah, they didn't really
said,
go into how they did it.
Or if the kids have asthma. Like, I don't know if you want to go making stuff up. I get it.
Well, can't you just say what I just said? Like, isn't that really why? Like, it's like, yeah, they're kids, they're impressionable. You know, I don't care that you do that, Mr. Tony. I think it's great, you know, but I don't think it's appropriate for the kids to be exposed to that because they're going to think you're really cool.
Mean, yeah, there are tons of ways to sort of grease a request like this. You could just flatter him and say like, oh man, when the kids see you do it, they're like, that's so cool. And like, you know, I don't want them to do that. So I would love if you could be a role model, blah, blah, blah. Oh my God, I don't know. But you guys got it. I mean, there's a way to dress up any kind of request that you have.
Yes.
Is it gonna have the desired effect?
Not necessarily.
Impossible to predict, but
yeah.
I think also the main thing is like she said the part that really like pissed her off was the fact that he was showing her child that is between 8 and 12 years old a clone in a cannabis cup, like in a red Solo cup or something.
Yeah.
Which is totally inappropriate. Totally wholly inappropriate to be showing a 16-year-old, much less an 8 to 12-year-old. Like, look at my drug plan, little kiddo.
Yeah.
Like, that is just completely out of line. Like,
I think it's respect too, you know, like, and I say that in a pro stoner way, like respect toward the people, but also respect toward the plant, respect toward it. It's a drug. It's you know, there's a seriousness to it. I think this guy is lonely and, you know, he doesn't have a lot going on. He's kind of like me. Like, I'm like, hey, guys, come over and have crunchy ice. And people are like, that's not a reason people go to places. Like, he doesn't know what he's doing. AITA, because I asked my neighbor to stop smoking weed in front of my kids. I think we agree. NTA, and he is.
yeah, in this situation, if he had not showed the kid like a straight up weed plan and was like, this is where my smoke comes from, then maybe it would have been a different situation. But you can't just go educating other people's kids about drugs. That's not okay.
Sarah?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because like I don't personally have positive associations with weed. Obviously, it's getting more normalized. So, and it's super popular on Reddit, I feel like. So it's interesting to hear this stuff because I'm like, well, I don't know. I just try to put it in context of other things and think about it. And if we agree that that's the line, I'm like happy to go there. That's it, really.
I guess just like as a cannabis professional, and that is, I understand, a ridiculous thing to say out loud.
I'm so happy you said that.
I just There's no like, could you imagine like pulling up like a barrel of wine and being like, here, 8-year-old, this is
well,
how
that's
mommy
what I was
finds
thinking.
her
I was like,
wine.
if he
You know
showed
what I
him a
mean?
bunch
Like,
of grapes and was like, this is what wine comes from, you'd be like, yeah, that's a little weird.
yeah, but it's not. It's also too like, it's just. I think it boils down to it's just not your place. And like maybe old man has been living next to them their entire lives, and he kind of used these neighbor kids as like his kids, but it's not your kids, and you can't just go around educating other people's kids about drugs, especially when they're 12 and under. That's not okay.
That seems fair.
This did go no
Seems
assholes here
reasonable.
on Reddit.
I think that everybody else isn't really zeroing in on the cup incident.
Well, yeah, and they're
Cupgate.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
if it weren't for that, I would definitely say no assholes here, because like he can smoke, it's legal, he can do what he wants. She can ask, or he can ask the guy not to do it, and I think they're both reasonable in that regard.
Yeah, I think there's a huge gap between for instance, walking around a park, smoking a joint, and then or going up to kids and kind of soliciting them while smoking a cigarette or a joint.
Well,
Like,
I think now we're going far with like soliciting, but yeah,
well, soliciting, engaging with, talking to.
I thought soliciting is like seeking. Like he's not. I don't think he's seeking out the kids to like show them about weed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever,
he's just
engaging
lonely.
with them. He's just lonely, yeah. Anyway, we're talking in circles. We agree. This guy's an asshole. Guys, rate, review, subscribe, please. We really appreciate it. Join us on Patreon, patreon.com/AITA pod. 120 plus bonus episodes, ad-free versions of every single episode. In fact, I actually just put up a post today encouraging people to be a Karen, because we will have a legendary customer experience for all of you. You can also have your own show like Riley is having right now. Thank you, Riley. We are so happy you are here to tell us and teach us as a weed professional about what we used to call MJ, which we no longer do. It's cannabis, people. I call it cabinus. Why not? I'm fun.
Woo woo.
Okay. All right, let's wrap this thing up, folks. AITA for telling my girlfriend to go back on her ADHD medication. My girlfriend, 20F, and I, 22M, have been together for 3 years. About a year into our relationship, she was diagnosed with ADHD. It made a lot of sense as to why she did a lot of the things she did, and we agreed that she'd go on medication to make her better. About a month ago, she went off her meds because of how bad the side effects were. I tried to be supportive, but she started doing a lot of things that, in all honesty, just got on my nerves. The main one being hyper-focusing. She loved reading as a kid and is currently doing a publishing degree, but has really struggled since her diagnosis with concentrating whilst reading. Her newest hyper-focusing endeavor is attempting to read 100 books before quarantine finishes. She's so far read over 50. I'm proud of her, but it's literally all she does. This goal is unhealthy. I don't remember the last time she had a shower or brushed her teeth or hair. A few days ago, I told her she needed to slow down, not only to give herself a break, but to spend more time with me. We ended up in a pretty heated discussion about whether she should go back on her medication, to which she argued she's doing fine without them, but she clearly isn't. Her parents texted me saying I upset her, and her friends have said I need to try and understand her and her ADHD more. I do try, but it's difficult when she's being like this. AITA.
Well, okay, here's what's interesting is like, it's not actually important, but I'm wondering where they are, like what country they're in, because I'm like 100 books in however, like, our lockdown was however many months. I'm like, that's not actually that crazy of a goal. Like it's fine. But I think the only thing in his favor is
Wait,
that
what? Why is where they are relevant? Are you completely lost?
Oh,
me?
because I feel like a couple of countries, like it just depends on. I'm just trying to see like how long their lockdown was. Like some countries were for like, like ours lasted 6 weeks, and like that's kind of a wild goal.
Oh,
but
I feel you now. Okay.
if you were in a place that had like a 6-month lockdown, then I'm like, okay, I think that's actually pretty doable. But that was just a dumb joke. But I mean, the only sort of piece of credit I can give this guy is that if she's really like neglecting her personal hygiene, that's an issue. But I think everything about this is fucked.
Yeah. I chiming in here as somebody who was misdiagnosed with anxiety and then got properly diagnosed with ADHD in my teen years. ADHD, that's a symptom of ADHD, is hyperfocusing. So he's like, oh my God, look at her. She has ADHD and she has all the symptoms of ADHD. And it's like, well, yeah, she just got diagnosed with ADHD. So it's like, she does all these annoying things now, like having ADHD symptoms. And it's like, she's always had them, my guy. It's just, you're just now realizing them
That's
because
funny.
you're able to label
Yeah,
them.
for sure.
Like, so hyper-focusing, it's so annoying that she's like reading these books. And it's like, I think my main issue with this is the title is, am I the asshole for asking my girlfriend to go back on medication? Which seems like not only such a slap in the face, but like a slap in the face with a Band-Aid and being like, oh yes, that'll fix it.
I will say that, you know, it's one thing if this guy wanted her to get on the medication for her benefit, but this is all just because he finds her annoying. Like,
Yep.
fuck you.
Yep.
I think I see which way you guys are leaning, so let me lean the other way. This person
Oh.
is unhealthy by this account. Isn't that right? She doesn't shower. She doesn't brush her teeth.
Which are like common symptoms of ADHD, like being unmotivated and like
Well, but it's
not
unhealthy.
being able.
I'm not.
Yeah, but he doesn't
Okay.
say it's for her. Like, he never says he's concerned about her. He says, I told her she needs to slow down, not only to give herself a break, but to spend more time with me. And it's just like, I just feel like nothing he said, you know, he goes, her newest endeavor is attempting to read. I'm proud of her, but it's all she does. Like, it doesn't seem like there's concern for her. It just seems like he finds it annoying.
Well, you said the concern for her, not only to give herself a break.
All right.
Yeah,
but you're
but
right. I mean, he is 20, you know. But you're right. That's not an excuse.
I tried to be supportive, but she started doing a lot of things that, in all honesty, just get on my nerves. Like, that's it right
yeah,
there.
you're right.
So you're
There's
not-
really
so
not
you're
a
not
lot of
supportive.
care.
So you're not supportive because she's literally 20 and she just got diagnosed, which means she's just now figuring this out, just like you are. So instead of being like, hey, babe, like, these are some things I've noticed, like, you're not brushing your teeth as much, you know, you're not getting out of bed as much, you're skipping meals. And I was just wondering if there's anything that I can do to help, or like we could get on more of a regular schedule, or maybe set like slow down on the goal a little bit. None of that happened. He was like, why don't you stop reading so much so you can spend more time with me? Oh, and also take care of yourself more for me.
Yeah, like, yeah, completely.
Yeah, I guess where I'm lost is I'm like, is it the way he's saying it? Because it does kind of seem like this does seem a little intense, you know?
I guess it's like,
Yeah, I agree, but it's just like, yeah, I think it's just the weight of what's... It's just like the way this is written and the weight that's going to various things doesn't really seem like his concern is her health. It just seems like his concern is himself.
I'm with that 100%. I agree that the way he's approaching this is all wrong, and there's no way he's not an asshole for how he's done this. But I guess my question is, given that he did state these facts, that she's not showering or brushing her teeth, it also does seem pretty fair to me to infer that she's not treating him very well. Can I get anything there?
is she not treating him well by not taking care of herself? Or is
Well,
she...
isn't that an indicator that she seems to be incredibly myopic about these fucking books?
I
You
mean,
know?
I feel like
She's
you got on me last
hyper-focusing.
week for like
Not
just
playing it as it
taking all
lays.
types of assumptions. So it's like, which way do you want to go? Like, do we want to imagine what's happening or do we play it as it lays?
So, well, playing it as it lays, Sarah, isn't it fair to say that someone who isn't showering isn't respecting their partner's needs? I would say that's axiomatic and still playing it as it lays. No?
Ugh.
No?
Ugh. So my partner can only be attracted to me if I have the same exact
Oh, I'm
health
not
regimen
doing
that
this
they
again.
do.
That's
I
not what
will
I
not.
said.
I will not do this conversation again.
So I guess
Wait,
like also
again?
too.
Oh, is Soapgate? Is that what you're on about?
Shaving gate, soap gate, makeup gate, body hair gate. I refuse.
Oh my God. You're going way too far with this. Guys, if you stop showering because you're reading 100 books in 6 weeks to 3 months, to 6 months, I guess we don't really know how long the quarantine is, and you're not showering and you're not brushing your teeth, isn't that going to lead?
I think the concern is still more like how that's bad for you and not how that's bad for me, to be honest.
Is this somebody who's looking out for themselves or wants to support their girlfriend who was just diagnosed with a mental health issue? Because to me, this is very much coming off as like, hey, I know you got this mental stuff going on, but you need to take care of me. You need to shower. You need to brush your teeth. You need to take care of me. And
no,
it's like,
I agree. He's an asshole. There's no question to me. He's an asshole. He's going about this all wrong. But I guess it's hard for me to imagine that she's treating him very well. I mean, he seems frustrated. He's an asshole. But I'm just like, this is a very intense goal. So let's read some comments. Top comment. All right. YTA. That level of commitment to bettering oneself sounds more like a superpower than a handicap. And I had that thought as well, except the facts. Oh, guys, it's over now. Now it's over. It all is about to fall for me. Turns out by this comment, OP actually edited in the thing about her hygiene and health. So that was bullshit. My whole case is about to be built on this.
We hate a shady edit.
A shady edit, throwing it. It's over for you, OP. I'm insulted and I'm angry that I started to take your side, you pig. You sexist trash. AITA for telling my girlfriend to go back on her ADHD medication on account of being controlling, on account of taking her goals, which are amazing personally, on account of a dirty, dirty edit, you dirty boy. I think we all agree. It's a whopping.
Okay, relax.
Oh, okay. Too far.
I don't know. I'm just like, well, it does seem like, I don't know why you wouldn't say this if you're thinking of it, but it does seem like his comment said the goal is seriously detrimental to her health, though. She's going days without eating or even showering. And like, I'm not going to go, like, I don't know. I just think this person who's like, oh, this sounds like a superpower. It's just like, I don't know.
No, but we're reading the edited version where he added in bullshit like that to try to soup up his side of the story.
Right, because he commented. I guess I'm saying like it could be true. Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Now you're back. You're defending him again.
Even if those things like are true, that she isn't taking care of her health, and even if all that is true, like he said he was trying to be supportive, but he's not. Because he's just coming at her in all the wrong ways. Totally. You know,
I'm just saying, like, I don't necessarily think that just because it's edited, it's made up. Because the comments seem to support the edits, but like in any case, we're still arriving at the same conclusion.
If we didn't have the things about her health, then there's literally nothing here except for hang out with me more. That's it.
Yeah,
there was nothing. That was the only thing. And I was trying to reach and infer the concern. We have one line to give herself a break, which is suspect. Yeah. And frankly, I didn't even have that. So, but now that we found out it's a dirty edit, I mean, it's over. This guy just doesn't want her to read because he wants to spend time with her, but he's controlling her. He's not doing that in a healthy way. He's the unhealthy one. And he's a fucking dirty editor, a dirty Redditor.
Ooh, and their account was suspended.
Get out of here.
Busted. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. All right, busted. Okay.
AITA for telling my girlfriend to go back on her ADHD medication. A whopping YTA. Unanimous.
Yeah.
All right, guys. That is the app. I only upset 2 women, so how bad can it really be, folks? Thank you so much for listening. Riley, thank you for joining us and supporting us. And remember to rate, review, subscribe, and support Black-owned weed companies and donate to Last Prisoner and support weed, what would you say, socially conscious weed companies.
Yeah, companies that are women-owned or that are Black-owned, always good to go with.
And don't call it the M word. Okay, I regret. See, that sounded like something else. Don't say, just call it cannabis. That's what, all right, I'm ending the podcast.
Oh my God.